I'm gonna start the recording there, and then I'll just be a minute or so. I'm looking for something to talk about. First thing I would mention is it's usually a good idea on most maps to go for an early fire strike. So here you can just line up on the doorway, like as they're coming out of spawn, to just get an initial fire strike, which can get you just some extra charge.
Okay.
Alright, so I already see some stuff that we might talk about after this game is done. Longer things I'm not gonna have time to go over while you're in the middle of fighting. Alright, yep. Oh.
I'm slapped.
Okay. Make sure you're watching your health bar. Don't like peek out into the open when you're like 150 HP, right? Make sure we're playing more passive when we don't have health available.
Stand by. I cover. Cover. Keep the shield up. Okay, good.
Okay. Make sure not to flash up your shield when it's low and needs to recharge, right? So sometimes, for example, we'd let it go down to 400, and then instead of letting it recharge, we just flash it up and then cancel the recharge, and then we put it down and then flash it up again and then do that again, to where we're never letting it recharge. So make sure we're trying to let our shields recharge and not just have them stay down. Okay. Well, we're looking to catch up to... Oh, very massive. When we're looking to catch... I'll let you play here.
Point. Wait. Ahora está. Hit one. The ball one.
Alright, make sure we're watching our aggression when we don't have shield. You can't really get aggressive when you don't have shield available, so when it's broken, you might not want to play aggressive. Noting that we have not yet used charge, so particularly, for example, a time where we could have charged was like when we got nanoed and we were just a mile away from everybody, right? That's a situation where, you probably can charge to catch up to people, especially if you have damage reduction from the nano boost, right?
Okay.
But then other time, just look for other opportunities to, well, a little bit of an early nano on your honest part, but.
We're gonna have one more Bob. Stay alive.
Alright, good job putting up the shield, but we did a little bit late. We let ourselves get down to 19 HP before we put up our shield. So again, watch the health bar. Make sure we're shielding when, more so when we're like 200 or 300, not 19 HP.
Bob is ready. One.
Alright, that's unfortunate. Oh, I'm gonna get res. Alright. What's the reason why our shatter didn't get value?
I got slept.
Alright. What's a way that we could have... Oh, they got off point somehow. Alright.
All right.
Good round. What's something we could have done to stop from getting slept?
Man, that was a lot of fun.
Yes, man. Nice healing.
Yeah, thank you.
Not too complicated. Not a super big trick question.
Maybe bait the Ana.
Real simple one is just shield it, right?
Yeah.
Can we shield it if Ana's behind us?
No.
Okay, so first we need to be aware that the Ana's there, right?
Yeah.
If we're not aware that the Ana's there, then she just gets off the sleep for free. If we know that Ana's there,
Man, I feel like
well,
I
now
was
we
a
can
tank
turn
for
around and
Reinhardt,
shield, and
needed to,
now Sleep Dart does nothing, right?
Yeah.
Then we can turn her back around and chatter, then boom, big chatter, we win the fight, right? So getting
Yeah.
slept by that Ana is just simply us not being aware of our surroundings and not shielding when we see the sleep. I see a bunch of things we'll go over after this game is done, but just for the moment being, that's about it.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely didn't even know the Ana was there, so that's
Yep. So that gets into audio awareness, which I think maybe we'll go over a couple things with audio awareness again after we're done here.
okay.
We got that.
But this is a fast game, so this is good. This is usually what
Too much
you
vision.
want in if you do a compass, you want the fast game so you can get to all the stuff real fast.
Alright, Hanzo, get
Yeah.
it. Oh, bullshit. Alright, I died.
Right. If you see Brian's charging at us from a mile away, you have a lot of time to react to it, get back around the
Yeah.
corner.
Counterpin.
Possibly could have counterpinned there, but usually the rule for counterpinning is if they have more people looking at you than your team is looking at them, then you're gonna die, right? So
Yeah.
in that situation, it would have been a great counterpin because your team wasn't really there to support you. Whereas there, that one, if you had counterpinned that one would have been more fine because it was more even.
Nice is that. Nice is that.
Nice, nice, nice. Huge, huge, guys.
Don't fire strike when you're low HP. Watch your health bar.
After that.
Alright, good game. Okay, I'm going to stream, and we're gonna go over like 8 different things. So,
Okay.
I'm streaming, and then I'm also gonna stop watching yours. Alright, so, let's see where to start. So, first off, let's just maybe touch on audio awareness. So, I would probably say, so when it comes to audio awareness, there's a couple things, right? First off, let's just talk about settings. Going into sound settings, first off, I would recommend upping your master volume if needed. Just get more audio, make it louder. Secondly, I would probably, it looks as though you have your music volume on 100%. I'd probably recommend either turning that down or off, as this can clutter with audio, and when music is going, it adds as an extra layer of unnecessary audio that just gets in the way. But that's preference if you'd like, or not. I guess that's not preference, but if you'd like it, then go ahead and enable it. It's up to you, right?
Gotcha.
Another thing I'd very highly recommend is just double checking if you're unaware of if you have it, but just make sure you have surround sound as an option enabled on your headset. And if you do not have it enabled on your headset and you don't have the option, or turn it on, if you don't have the option, then there's Dolby Atmos for headphones in game, which is just the in game version of surround sound. This is just going to give you sound that surrounds you. Now, you could have all of these settings be absolutely garbage and still have good audio awareness if you pay attention to your surroundings, right? So listen for footsteps, listen for gunshots, listen for abilities and ultimates, right? So if we, for example, hear that Anna's behind us because she's shooting or that because she's walking around and jumping, well, now that's going to give us better awareness and we can turn around and shield Anna. Therefore, we don't waste an ultimate, right? So paying attention to our surroundings. Now, moving on, right? Other things. Let's cover, I guess, I'm just deciding because there's a lot of things. So let's just go through them. Okay. Positioning. General positioning. How should you be standing generally? If we are positioning here and the whole enemy team's over there, and it takes us.
Are you showing this on your stream?
Yes, I am. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm not able to.
Is it
I'll
showing
watch
your
yours.
stream? Yeah, is it showing yours at the moment?
Yeah.
Do
Oh, here we
do
go.
you see it? All right.
Okay, I'm on yours now. You're in the training area?
Yep. Mhm.
Okay.
So
Cool.
if I'm standing here, right, and the whole enemy team is standing there, right, it's going to take us 1, 2, 3 seconds to get behind cover. Now from this point, you cannot shoot through solid objects, so we are safe, right? But in that time it took us to get here, we ended up dying because they shredded us, right? Now from right here, it now takes us half a second to duck behind cover, right, which is 6 times faster than what it just took us previously, right? And there's a lot of so therefore, good positioning is the usage of cover, whereas bad positioning is the absence of cover. So think back, for example, to that very last fight of defense, where we ended up dying because we just were kind of standing out in the open on the middle of point, where we didn't have any cover to use, and then therefore our shield broke and we got melted, right? Whereas if we had cover, well, now they can't shoot us because we're behind something, right? Now, there's a lot of different types of cover. We have slopes, right, like such. We have pillars in between shots when we're reloading, when we're low HP or taking damage. Right? You have corners that do the same exact thing. You have random objects that are sitting around, like the payload. You have pillars and corner, doorway, corner, right? It's all over the place, right? So make sure we're utilizing cover, as when we're not, then we're going to be taking a whole lot of unnecessary damage, right? Now, let's see, going from thing to thing, I guess while we're on the topic of cover, why don't we talk about no man's land usage, right? So no man's land is not, are you familiar with the term? People aren't usually familiar with it, in at least relation to Overwatch.
No.
Yeah, so in any case, right, have you heard of a choke point or a choke?
Yep.
Yeah, so that one's a little bit more common, right? So a choke would be something like this, right? A choke is like a funnel, right? A choke is a tiny little enclosed space that forces the enemy team to walk through it, and then therefore you can spam them out very easily, right? When it comes to holding a choke, right, you typically don't want to hold at the front of a choke, right? So let's say we're defending on this side. We don't want to run up here and hold up here, right? Because if we hold up here, well, now they don't have to walk through the choke, right? So they don't
Right.
have to walk through this bad positioning. And in fact, we, to back up and go away from them, we have to walk backwards through this bad positioning, right? Same thing if you're in the middle of it. Whereas if you hold at the end of the choke, well, now to get to us, they have to walk from all the way over there to they can't just sit there, they have to walk through this choke point, right? So therefore they have to come through this bad positioning, and we don't have to stand in the middle of it. Now, sometimes if the choke is like really short, right? So this is a longer choke, right? So this, like, you see this long amount of space. But if a choke is like shorter, I'm trying to find an example. So like, let's say it's just something like this. It's just like yeah, this is a funnel, but look how thin this funnel is, right?
Right.
So think, for example, like Eichenwald first point, the
Mm-hmm.
little bridge, right?
Right.
So it's a smaller choke. It's not a very wide, long funnel. It's a little bit of a wider, thinner, right? Choke point, right? So
Okay.
therefore you can't really hold right up next to it, because if you were to hold right up next to it, then again they don't really need to walk through it, right? If they can just sit over there and we're
Mm-hmm.
holding right here, then what reason do they have to run into you, right? When they could
Right.
just shoot at you and just sit there, and then they never have to walk through that bad positioning, right? So alternatively, we might want to hold further back away from it to bait them to walk through it. So that's choke point usage. No man's land is very similar, a very similar concept. So no man's land is any long stretch of space where there's no cover at all. We just talked about what cover is, and no man's land is when there's a lack of it in a long area, right? So for example, if you have a control point, right? Just the control point, even though it's, I guess, not a long area, it's a very wide open area where there's no cover at all. So this right here
Mm-hmm.
would be no man's land. If you're standing right here, you got nothing, nada, right? This
Right.
right here would be no man's land. This long stretch from here to there, where there's not. If you're walking down the middle of this, you're not gonna have any cover at all. Therefore, you're gonna get melted. You're gonna get shredded, right?
Yeah.
So again, how you hold this defensively is you're not going to run up. So if the enemy team is there and we're all back, the points over there, we're not going to
Mm-hmm.
run up and hold up here, because now, again, we have to back up through this wide open area, and they don't have to push through it, right? But if we, and same thing in the middle, but if we, for example, hold at the back of the end of it, well, now they have to walk through this wide open space with no cover, and that's really bad positioning for them. So how does that relate to the game you're just in the last game we were just in, a lot of times we ended up pushing forwards. Especially, I don't think there were many no man's lands, but it was a lot of choke points,
Mm-hmm.
and we ended up pushing forwards through these choke points to hold at the front of them rather than having them walk through it. So let's see. I guess I don't know if I need to demonstrate it on the map, because I think you're getting the general point, unless you're not. But on King's Row, that would, for example, the center statue, right? A lot of
Hmm.
times we'd end up pushing past that center statue instead of holding on the back end of the center statue, maybe more so hugging the right wall of point, waiting for them to walk through that choke point, and then engaging them once they have walked through.
Okay.
We ended up walking into them, which just put us in bad positioning a lot of the time. So a lot of you don't necessarily need to even show yourself. You can just sit here and wait for them to walk in, and then once they get close, now you can engage on them, right?
Okay.
So that's choke point usage, no man's land usage. Moving on. Swinging, right? So when you swing on something, make sure you are not just staring at the thing you're swinging at, right? When you stare at the thing you're swinging at, you only hit one thing, right? Whereas if you swing your camera, well, now we can hit two things, right? So a way to make this very, very easy on yourself is to just swing your camera along to the rhythm of your in-game swing. So when your hammer goes left, your camera goes left. Hammer goes right, camera goes right. That looks like left, right, left, right. So you're gonna do this, right, as you're swinging around. Honestly, it can be even crazy. If you want to, it can be crazier than that. You might see plays where you just see Ryan's doing this, right? And
Yeah.
the same concept applies, right? It's just it swings your camera, and therefore you're hitting multiple people. So here, a lot of times I just see you kind of staring straight at people, right?
Right.
And then this allows us to dang it. This allows us to hit people even up to complete 180s, right? People can be on opposite sides of you and you are still able to hit them, such as this, right? Even though they're on complete opposite sides of each other, we can still hit them.
Right.
Let's see, what else is there? Oh, shield management, right? So shield management, a couple things within shield management. Don't think it was too fantastic. So how do we use our shield better? Because it went down a lot. So first off, I already mentioned to you in game of when it does go down, don't keep flashing it up, right? You don't want to let it go down to 0 and then put it up, or sorry, you don't want to let it go down to 400 and then put it up and then let it go down and then put it up and then go down and then put it up, right? Because when you do this, it never recharges, right? You never give it the
Right.
opportunity. So instead, play passive, wait for it to recharge, and then go in, right? Beyond this, there's certain times to shield and certain times not to shield. You shield up when you are low, when your teammates are low. You shield to block abilities and ultimates. You shield when you're pushing aggressively, when you're backing up, and you also can shield when you're blocking a ton of spam damage, right? So think, for example, your team is grabbed and you need to shield to keep them all alive because you know if you don't shield, they're all going to blow up, right?
Right.
So those are times where shield is needed. Where shield is not needed is when you're just shielding everyday random spam damage, right? So when you are just sitting there going like this on the front line when they're just shooting into your shield, this isn't really accomplishing very much. It's not really
Right.
doing a lot. You're giving your team 3-4 seconds to shoot at them and then your shield's gone, right? Whereas
Right.
if we use those other ones that we mentioned are usually going to be a lot more important. So think it's probably going to be much more important to block one single ability than it is to block, and to waste your shielding, 600 HP worth of damage, right?
Right.
Typically, it's not equivalent. You're going to find a lot more value out of holding on to shield for the things that it matters for. So don't just shield against this random spam damage. Instead, you just back up around the corner and wait for them to get closer to you. So instead of just sitting here waiting, you just swing on the corner, play on the corner, just peek in and out if you want to, use the corner as cover, right? Rather than just standing here and hard shielding and then when shield's gone, backing up, right? Now, on top of that, are you familiar with shield hopping and how that works?
I've seen it done. I've never actually done it myself.
Yep.
Like I've watched videos kind of, but I haven't.
Yeah, so I'm going to demonstrate, we're talking about how to do it, but then also why do you do it, right? So first off, the why do you do it, right? If we were to just hard shield and walk towards someone normally, well, now we're moving very, very, very slowly, right? While we're moving
Right.
towards them slowly, they have a ton of time to shoot at us and do damage, and then therefore our shield and us get melted. Whereas if we were to not hold the shield and move fast, well, now we get melted again. We just blow up, right? The
Right.
alternative is to shield hop, which is a mixture of the two, right? You are now going to be moving at a faster pace than if we were to be just normal shielding, right? And then on top of that, we're not going to instantly blow up because our shield is going to be soaking up most of the damage, right? And the damage that leaks through is not going to be enough to kill anybody in most cases. You might get a lucky shot that comes through, but in a lot of times, if you're shield hopping, you're not going to instantly blow up. And then if you do get low, you can always hard shield, right?
Yeah.
So and then also getting the process of getting to them sooner, right? You rotating your shield means you're taking less damage, but then also at the same time, you getting to them sooner means you're taking less damage in general, right? So how
Yeah.
do you do this, right? This basically is you're going to leap forward, so you're just going to press W, jump, right? And then while you're midair, you are shielding, right? So shield, then you let go when you land, shield, let go, shield, let go, shield, let go, and that's a repeated process, right? So again, it's W, jump, shield while midair, right? And then you let go, and then that's just shield hopping. That's going to give you a much faster move speed and get you on top of people sooner, right? So this is, for example, how you would cross through no man's land and choke points, right? If you have to walk through this, like how do you aggress through no man's land? You don't want to just walk through this wide open area. You're going to want to go from, first off, go from cover to cover. So we might go from here to there, right? Give ourselves time to get more recharge our health, recharge our
Mhm.
shield if needed, give our team some time to regroup, and then we're also going to shield hop across instead of just hard shielding. So we'd go like this, right? Get across, come over here, regroup a little if we need to, and then we come across, do the same thing, and then again take a little pause if we need to, and then we'd go in, right? Let's see. So what else is there? I feel like there's slightly more, but all right. I think aggression. Make sure that we're not just getting. Yeah. So just make sure we're. I'm trying to think of how to talk about this. So let's talk about aggression scaling real quick. Um, so when you have aggression, you have a scale that you want to work with, right? So at 0% of the scale is super passive, and at 100% is super aggressive. Every single fight, you're basically coming in at a neutral of 50%, where nothing's happened yet, so you're starting off at the default, right?
Yeah.
So you adjust up on this scale when you have advantages and when you have opportunities, and you adjust down on the scale when you have disadvantages and when you are lacking resources, right? So, for example, let's say your team got 2 kills. Well, now you can play much more aggressive. You can go from 50% to maybe like 70% because now your team's at a significant advantage. Same thing the opposite way. If you're down 2 people, you might drop from a 50 to like a 30% in passiveness, right? So now you're adjusting your aggression. If you lack abilities, so let's say your whole shield's gone, right? Well, now our aggression might go from a 50% or 60% to maybe like a 20%, where now we can't just sprint at them without a shield because we're gonna get melted, bar
Right.
certain situations, right? And then if you have opportunities, such as let's say we're at 50%, but then we see the enemy Reinhardt is 1 HP, well, now we can run forwards and get much more aggressive, even if it's only for like 2 seconds, and get much more aggressive and go up to like a 90%, right? So we're going to adjust up and down with this. Sometimes we would go in, for example, when we didn't have shield, or we didn't have health, or we would at least peek out into the open when we didn't have those two. And sometimes we would maybe get a little bit too over aggressive and push in when we didn't have any advantages, or we'd have disadvantages and we wouldn't back up and play passive. I'd probably say in general you have more of a tendency to lean towards the aggressive, which isn't a bad thing. You just need to understand that there's times where you play aggressive and times where you play passive. It's honestly much better to play aggressive than like to have a habit of playing aggressive than a habit of playing passive, because you're going to be able to do more things, but you have to understand that there are times where you do need to play more passive, because otherwise you're going to blow up and then die, right?
Right.
So let's see, was that about it? I think you can go ahead and hop into a queue. I'm gonna rack my brain and see if there's anything else that I'm forgetting for the moment.
Okay.
Um, hey
So
there.
on the
Good, good.
on the sound you were
Mhm.
saying, I'm not sure if you're able to view my screen right now. So
I can in a moment. All right, now I can.
Do you recommend anything? I've turned the music volume down a lot.
Do you
Uh,
have? Do you know if you have Dolby Atmos for? You have Dolby Atmos for headphones enabled on here. Do you
yeah.
have that as a headset option or not?
I don't know if it's a headset option. I do have surround though, for
Okay.
sure.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
surround sound on your headset, I think a lot of the times might be higher quality, depending on the headset and the brand and the software, can be like higher quality than the in-game option. But
Okay.
I'm not too familiar with that. But yeah, that looks fine to me, right? You turn the surround sound on, music's down, master's up, so that looks all
Okay.
good.
Okay. Oops.
So any questions on any of that stuff that we just reviewed?
Let's see. I guess I know positioning is like so part of the reason that I decided to finally get some coaching was I was did a looking for group and I joined a group and they had a whole bunch of the little abbreviations on there and I didn't notice that it was a um, diamond group. And when I joined the game or joined the group, I'm like, hey, I don't know if I'm high enough level to be in here. And the group leader was like, yeah, you're fine. I'm like, okay. And I didn't inspect anybody else's profile, so I didn't really notice that they were all a lot higher. Then we started playing in the game, and someone was like, "Wait, are you actually gold?" So it was kind of a mess. But
Yeah.
they for the most part they were nice. But somebody did. Someone was really questioning my positioning. They were like, "Why were you there? Why were you standing there?" Because and so I don't know, not in like a negative way, but I felt kind of like shamed a little bit of,
Yep.
maybe I don't know everything about this game. Maybe because I try to watch a lot of videos. I watch like Flats play a lot. I don't know if you know who he is.
Yep, I know Flats. Played with him a ton.
Yeah,
Or
not really.
with and against.
Okay. Yeah, so I try to watch a lot of his videos and try to learn, but it
Hey,
just wasn't working on
I'm
my
gonna
own. So
give me a minute. My baby sister called in the room. I have to bring her out.
okay, all good.
All right, I'm back. Right. So one thing I would also mention in that I never that hadn't was just make sure you're paying attention to health bar, right? When you're around like 250 to 200, that's the time in which you're looking to back up, hold shield, play more passive because you don't want to wait until you're 10 HP before you're doing that stuff because then you're just gonna die, right? So. Right, so here this is a no man's land / choke point. So we're going to first off group up with our team. Then what we're gonna look to do is make sure we have our shield. Then we're gonna go shield top in, go from cover to cover. Right, we're gonna start at the choke point, probably go left side out of choke. Alright, you'll get used to it. Flashing shield a little bit fast for the shield hopping, but it's not terrible. Alright. Another thing to note is that when we had initially pushed in past choke, we went in when we were down a player. Being down a player means we're at a disadvantage, so we don't want to purposefully put ourselves at a disadvantage to start off a fight. So instead, it'd probably be better that you just wait the extra 13 seconds for Pharah to respawn before you're re-engaging. Oh, good charge. No, watch for the traps. Team comp dictates playstyle, so when they're on a Junkrat, just make sure we're keeping our eye on the floor. Alright, cup. Two awareness things there. First off, make sure you're paying attention to like the Reinhardt where he was low and got purpled and we just didn't notice him because he was to our left, and therefore we probably could have looked to punish him earlier in the fight. A little far push forwards, make sure you're with your team at the moment. Right, you just don't want to be like, this is like okay if you have your whole team here, but you don't have your whole team there, right? Besides that, in the last fight, we also could have fire struck the tire, but we didn't hear it or see it until too late. Right, and then just to make sure you are aware, fire strike does one tap tire, though that's something you might have been aware of already.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm. Right, and that last fight, counter-charging Reinhardt, right? It's definitely better to counter-charge and be left defenseless on the floor than to be charged by a nanoed Reinhardt who's going to like one-tap you, right?
Yeah.
Alright, so in this, this is a toughie. In this next fight, going through castle might be a good option because it means that maybe you can drop on them from the high ground might be a good idea, right? Because if you drop on them from high ground, you're instantly getting on top of them versus having to walk through this long open stretch of space. Now, here they are holding a little bit close. So if we
Yeah.
did want to, we now we don't have to walk through that long stretch of open space to get to them. So that's an example of capitalizing them on their bad positioning, right? Right, so because of the fact that they were in poor positioning, we were therefore able to run at them and then punish them for being in poor positioning, right? And then we rolled them, so that was a good job on that. Yep, push forwards, get the staggers. Never mind, it's all of them, might want to back up. Right, in general, just like if you don't have your team with you, right. When Genji's blading, you have two options. Nano blading, right? You have two options there to shut it down. First off, you can look to shatter it, right? Which is, if you shatter him, then he's on the floor and you can charge him. Secondly, look to charge him, right? Because if you charge the Genji, then you can you get him down to like 1 HP and you can finish him off with a swing after you get him down to 1 HP, and it also just takes him out of the fight, right? So look to do that. Right. So in that situation, right, we could have gotten like 3 people, but we only got 1 person with shatter, and that was because we are a little bit too close, right? Noting that your shatter pattern is a cone, so it spreads out the further away they are from you, and is very close when they're very close to you. So therefore, when you're trying to shatter a bunch of people, back up a little bit. Okay, once again, counter charge. We haven't counter charged yet.
I got sunglasses. Didn't I?
Like if you cannot reach the person who is shattered in time, charge them, right? That it results. You don't want to always charge. It's situational when you charge a shatter, right? If you charge a shatter when they're all right next to you and you shattered everybody, well then it just boops everybody away, right? Uh, Whereas if you were to charge when it's one person who's a little bit far away from you, then now you get to them very fast and you get the one tap in. You can also charge right at the very end of your shatter, right as they're waking up, and then that guarantees like you get a kill, maybe on like a tank, for example.
Prepare your defenses. Select your hero.
Justice will be done.
Clearing the area. The destruction caused by one negative.
Attackers incoming in 30 seconds.
Do you recommend I hold closer up there
No,
or
so
back here?
back on the corner, right? Because then
Okay.
this like it mentioned, this is a choke point in
Hmm.
which how it would work, right? Because the choke point is tinier, then they can just shoot you through it, and then this also capitalizes on the no man's land.
Okay.
If they were to go right side, then you rotate right side to meet them. If your whole entire team is up there, though, then you might want to consider going up to join them. As if your team's in bad, if your team's in bad positioning, you go and join them in bad positioning.
Okay.
But do your best to try to get them to walk backwards towards yourself, if possible. Yep. So now they're joining you, so that's good. Yep, doing good. And they went right side, so we're rotating right side. Right now they're stuck in this tiny little choke point, right, that they have. You can possibly charge the corner there because they can't really see it coming if anybody walked through. Alright, so possibly getting aggressive earlier in the fight could have resulted in it winning. Right, keeping in mind that ults that are used first and generally get more value than ults that are used second, and same thing with aggression. Typically, the team that engages first is going to have the advantage, as you can go in, get a bunch of kills, and then now their ultimates and their aggression gets less value because they have less players to capitalize with. Right, so using Shatter, maybe pinning on the corner might get you value earlier than they can get value. Alright. Unfortunate. I'm not sure where Junkrat was that he booped us. Maybe it's possible he was like behind us there. But making sure being aware where Junkrat is, so we're not just being booped off the high ground, because that was the big problem right there. No, we had done it in the past, but just make sure when you walk out of spawn you're charging, that way you get back sooner.
Adaptive circuits engaged. Reinhardt.
Hmm.
Duplicating.
This is not over.
Nice charge. Very good.
Up here or
Here you probably want to hold back on the corner again, right? And this also gives you the the open area, and then you can also use the card as cover as well. Unfortunate. Fire strike came a little late, so we were fire striking when it was like right on top of us. When you might have wanted to fire strike a little bit earlier, and then therefore shield came up late as well. Mm. All right. So on second point, right? Why do you think that your team was unable to get a touch, like, and go and recontest on when they're about to cap point? What was the reason?
we're kind of staggered.
Yeah,
Thing.
exactly. You nailed on the head, right? It was because our whole team was staggering, and then therefore we weren't able to recontest with a full 6 teammates, right? Or even 4 to 5, right?
Yeah.
So in that situation, right, you can't always stop staggering, but first off, you want to make sure that you yourself are not staggering. That's something you want to do.
Okay.
You also want to make sure, which we had staggered a little bit because we were the last person dead, and we like had charged off on our own, which meant that we died a little bit later than preferenced, and then therefore our whole team walked in with before us, right? So make sure that we're not staggering. But then even beyond that, we can communicate that, like say, hey guys, group up, we're staggering right now. We're down people. Sit back, right? That sort of idea. Don't have the expectation that they will listen to you, but you will have a higher chance of something happening if you do that. You can also press the group up with me button, which can also indicate the same thing, but from in-game chat. And then that's really it for that. I think we're gonna go over a concept real quick before you hop into a queue, and that is watching and how to understand whether or not you've won or lost a fight, right? So this goes hand in hand with aggression scaling, but that is when it basically comes down to watching kill feed, right? When you are up 1 to 2 people, you have, or sorry, let's say up or down 1 to 2 people, that is an advantage or a disadvantage. In that situation, you might want to play more aggressive or a little bit more passive, right? Again, going up a little bit on the scale, going down a little bit on the scale. When you are up 2 to 3 people or down 2 to 3 people, that means that you have won or lost the fight. At that point, you're going to the more extreme ends of the scale, right? And when you have won or lost the fight, you don't use ultimates. When you've won the fight, you get really aggressive. When you've lost the fight, you look to either get out if possible, or if you can't get out, you let them kill you, right? And that way, we don't end up staggering ourselves. Besides that, make sure we're not walking in when we're down people, as there were a couple times where we'd go into fights when we were down 1 to 2 people, and then that's just you walking in when you're already at that disadvantage where now instead of having a 50-50 chance to win the fight, maybe we're walking in with a 40-60 chance to win the fight, right? So might not want to do that in a lot of cases. It's probably better to wait the time so we have a higher chance of winning the fight. And then there are also a couple times. Let's see. Yeah. So that's about it for that, I guess. That's just the basics of paying attention to that. There's some, I guess, more complicated, but I think that's it for demonstration wise. And you can probably look to go ahead and hop into another game. Maybe one thing I talk about is just charging. In general, we don't seem to be utilizing charging as much as we could. Charge as we're walking out, as we're coming out of spawn. You don't want to go for long charges because that's gonna end up killing you, and that's maybe why you have a that bad experience with charging might have been the reason which you don't charge very much, is because you tried to charge from like a mile away and you just got shredded because they all looked at you. Right. But
Yeah.
alternatively, when we can charge is when we're like, for example, right next to somebody, because when we're doing a short charge from like 5 meters away to a wall, right, now we're getting out of that charge animation pretty much immediately. So think, for example, in that first point defense, where
Mhm.
we're holding on that right side of that, like of the choke, right? And
Right.
when they're coming through, they're coming around the corner and they can't see you at all. So, for example, we were to charge them while they're walking around that corner. Well,
Hmm.
now it's such a it's a very tiny um, space, so you're not charging for very long. You're only gonna be charging for like a second, which means you can
Hmm.
shield immediately if you need to. But then even beyond that, they can't really see you coming, so they can't stun you, they can't shoot at you, and then they're not expecting it, right? So just look for situations like that. Countercharge much more often. You don't want to countercharge all the time, but you want to countercharge especially if you know that you're in a neutral. So the enemy team, let's say the enemy team has 4 people looking at you, and your team has 4 people looking at them, right? You're gonna get a neutral amount of support. Or if you have the advantage in support, let's say the Reinhardt has 1 person looking at him, you have on your team 5 people looking at him, right? So you want to countercharge in that instance because you will live, he will die.
Attackers incoming in 30 seconds.
Yeah, I definitely. I had a bad habit, I think, of charging too much, especially when I would like
Mm,
shatter somebody or
mm,
shatter a group of them, and then,
yep,
um, just boot everybody away
yep.
and
And then,
or charge into things and
yeah,
get crowd
yeah.
control. So
Exactly, right? And then maybe we just took it the opposite direction and then never charged, right? So,
yeah.
you want to find a nice balance between the two because what you are describing is definitely bad charges, but there are such thing as good charges.
Defend
Okay.
objective A.
Should I play up here or should I play? I mean, normally I'll play down in
Here,
this corner,
yeah,
but
you can sit up here for to start off, but then you just drop to rotate back down
all
once they
right.
get closer. So like right around now, we drop and play in the corner. Right now, when you get picks and advantages, you can play more aggressive and even push into bad positioning. So even if you wanted to, you could push past the no man's land. You could push into their spawn if you have a very significant advantage. Right. So now we're just resetting, maybe just getting back up to high ground to start off, and then rinse and repeat.
Okay.
So charging into that wall is more of like maybe a like mid-range charge. So I'd be careful about that because it's not as close as the other one was. So that is okay in certain situations. Maybe in others is gonna be a little bit dangerous. Hmm. Yep, noting we're down 2 people at the moment, so right now we're looking to play passive, maybe wait for the respawns, back up to like maybe the far side of point if we wanted to, looking for like shatter here. Oh, now we got ults. Alright, now we're up 3, so now we're getting up at really aggressive, right? We probably got our players back by now. So you pull it around with like ultimates there, which is completely fine, right? You go aggro because that's now an opportunity that you can get. Though do watch for the shadow there, right?
Push the diva. Yeah.
And not really your job to contest her there. It's gonna be very, very slow before you actually reach her.
Yeah.
So you kind of just have to ignore her because there's not a ton you personally can do against. Well, now you can shoot at Diva, right? All right.
Allow me to repair the damage. Enemy contact.
Don't worry, my friend. I have your shield.
30 seconds remaining.
Yeah, you maybe wait slightly higher on the higher ground. It's more so like you're gonna drop when they get below you-ish. Oh, very nice. He's listening to me, man. Oh, I don't know why I said that to you, but very good chatter on the Nanoblade Genji, right? So you just countered 2 ultimates using 1 ultimate, which is value, right?
Yeah.
And Nanoblade being, one of the most powerful combos in the game, which means that therefore you stopping it is very, very valuable. So good job, man. Right?
Yeah.
Select your
I was nervous because I've tried to shadow them before, and I
Mm.
feel like every time I do, he's in the air and it just
Yeah.
doesn't.
So in that instance, you just want to wait for him to drop because, of course, like he's not gonna be able to indefinitely stay in the air. He's not Pharah, so you just
Right.
wait. You just want to make sure you're watching for the jump. Wait till he's on the floor because you definitely can end up just missing him because he double jumped. But as long as you wait until after the double jump is gone, then you have a good easy shatter, right?
Okay.
I don't understand how you can trust someone.
I don't. But Sombra has her uses, and I know what she is up to. Looks like we're all together again.
Let's hope it goes better than the time at the museum.
I live for a good fight. Yeah. Gotcha.
Five, four, three, two, one. Attack commencing. Capture objective.
Alright, so just noting, we're gonna have to push you through some chokes here. So again, we're just using cover, shield hopping. They're a little bit close at the moment, so maybe you can like turn to punish the ball there. Oh, right, Bastion's sitting right there. You can maybe look to charge him. In that instance, right? Get a really easy pick on him. Like in that situation, if you did want to hard push Zen, you could just charge at him and then just close that distance really, really fast. Right? Keep in mind that you can charge, it can be used to kill people, but it can also be used as mobility to get to people. If you're trying to not have to slowly walk through the wide open area. Alright, very good game. Not like incredibly flashy, but we full held and then cap instantaneously, so good job. Alright, I don't think I have very much demonstration stuff to go for now. We've covered many of the things that need a demonstration, so you can look to go ahead and just hop into another game here. Wow, that guy person has a very shaky sensitivity.
Yeah.
Man, might need to lower that a little bit.
Is there anything you recommend, like on my DPI? Because I think right now my DPI is at 1600. Five or something like that.
It's controls, yeah. 1600 by 5.2. So that is an EDPI of 8,320. For reference, my EDPI, so that's just your sensitivity times your DPI, would be
Right.
3,600. So you have a little bit more than half of mine, which
Okay.
is if you main tank particular, or do you typically main tank, right? So I think you play mainly Reinhardt. Is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll
So
swap to Winston sometimes. Like
yeah.
I know
So
on Numbani, I need like some mobility on that first point, so I'll do that.
honestly,
Right.
not that big of a problem. Reinhardt and Winston don't need pixel perfect headshot accuracy. If you
Okay.
were to go over to a hit scan character like McCree or Widow or something, I
Mhm.
might recommend for you to try out a lower sensitivity for that might help you out a little bit. But on Reinhardt and Monkey and some other tanks, not gonna like that sensitivity is honestly not that terrible, right? It's that's fine.
Okay.
Oh.
How long have you been coaching for?
3 years, a little while now.
Okay. What made you want to start coaching? And I mean, I assume you still play, but
Yeah, I play. I don't play competitively anymore. So I do play competitive, but not competitively. As in,
Mm,
I used to play on teams, and I was trying to get to Overwatch League. But not anymore. I stopped that about like a year ago or so. But in any case, and also I don't play. I used to play like 40 hours a week. Now that's not the case at all. But in any case, getting back to what got me into it is mainly just because I had a lot of experience with the game, and I'm naturally gifted at teaching. And I was like, yeah, sure, money, yeah, we'll do that.
right.
Those two go together decently well. And I don't actually remember particularly like what made me consider it getting into it. I actually don't remember that, but I just remembered I hopped on Fiverr and started it up. Though, oh wait, maybe it was oh, it's possible that I started coaching because I watched a video of oh, I think what maybe what it was that I'd watched a video of like a YouTuber, an Overwatch YouTuber, maybe it was like Jane or someone who went
Mm.
over on Fiverr and like hired a coach and pretended to be bad or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Um,
I've seen videos like that with like the real
yeah.
Kenzo, I think.
Yeah, I had somebody do that to me once. O'Nickel did that to me. But in any case, I think that might have been why I looked into it at the very least. But that's me just vaguely remembering. I can't remember exactly. Oh, good awareness. Alright, there we seemed to be conflicted, like we were confused whether we should have been swinging or shielding, and we were kind of like, we would drop our shield to swing and then immediately put it up and cancel the swing and then do that like 3 times in a row. So in that situation, you want to swing until you don't have health, right? Or until you don't want to just sit there and shield, right? Oh, now when you're low, you might want to shield,
Yeah.
right? So it's dependent, right? You shield when it's needed, you don't shield when it's not needed, right? So if you're sitting there right next to Reinhardt, and you're shielding, you're just letting him swing on you for free. So swing back. But if you're low, then you shield and try to back up, right? Okay, good job punishing him. We're up 2, so now we're playing really aggressive. Maybe just like hard push someone here. Now, keeping in mind that we are down 2 people now, so it's gone to a neutral, now back to 50%.
Mm.
50% still. Right? 50% doesn't mean you can't do anything, right? 50% is neutral. So if there's an on a Torbjorn right next to you and you have full HP and pretty much full shields, swing on them, right? There's no reason not to swing on them. Right? So just again, noting that your neutral isn't hard shielding, right? Hard shielding and not doing anything is you're like 20 or 30%.
Okay. Is there Ryan back yet? I don't think he's back yet. Huh? Oh, he is.
Good job using cover. It's a good idea. Might need to help your team through the choke though. Hmm.
Bro.
I'm trying to take high ground and ult, but people keep competing. What? Explain.
Yeah, good job, Wayne. So, very nice counter charge. Alright, very, very nice.
Tactical visor activated. Into the iris.
Request healing when you're low, that's just gonna get you healing faster. Teammates will see you sooner. Besides that, when shattering, might give it an extra second to let the Zen come out of trance, as we did it slightly early. Besides that, when Reinhardt had shattered us earlier on, how long had it been before, like, since he had used his last shatter?
Right in the mega room.
I'm not
Oh,
sure.
we'll talk about it after. We'll give you time. I like the aggression. Good job. That was a good gauge on when you should have been sitting there, and then you saw your team is pushing in, so you pushed in with them. So it was a good idea. Alright. Yeah, good job. Probably take high ground. Check behind you real quick, right? Waiting on someone still. Right, so every time before you engage, you're looking behind you real quick. That way you're not doing what D.Va's doing and walking in when you're down as a person. Alright, so now let's talk about that. So, previously, right, when Reinhardt first shattered you, right, had Reinhardt you shatter yet before that?
I think once.
You think once?
That makes sense.
Actually, don't. You might be right. I don't remember if remember him having shattered you before he shattered you in your spawn. But when he had shattered you in your spawn, that had been like minute 3. So in 3 minutes, right? If you hadn't used it yet, that means he's a shatter, right? So just make sure we're paying attention to like when was the last time he used it, how much has Reinhardt been doing. Pay attention to the fact that he has it, because if you know he has it, then you can look to block it. If you don't know he has it, then you're not looking to block it.
Okay, run up top to the left. Okay, so he's gonna shatter.
So in that instance, watching out for our behind, right, and keeping aware of that. Possibly when they're Reinhardt, trying to think there.
Guys, then can you spam the turret, please?
Yeah, main thing there is just watching for the sleep and the nade is the biggest thing.
I got it.
Okay, very nice, but keep in mind you're still down a player, so you could possibly push here. You're just going to be at a slight disadvantage. Yep, so right now we're up, but we don't have shield.
Okay, good touch. It's all worthless to do. Nice.
Uh-oh, misjudged that a little bit. I think by the time that you had rotated all the way under, that the Torval had run out, possibly. And even if it hadn't, I might have recommended just charging across the Torbolt, because remember, it's based off of how long you're standing on top of it. So if you charge across it very, very fast, you're not going to take enough damage to kill you, right? Alright, so like for example, let's say that it does, I don't know the exact damage number on Torval, but let's say it does like 120 damage a second that you're standing on it. If you're only standing on it for 1 second and you have 500 HP, you'll be fine, right? So if you were to charge across it, that's probably going to be more beneficial for you than trying to, take 7-10 seconds to run all the way around underneath, right?
Yeah, on that Rhine pin, I knew that I was gonna go off the edge, but he was nanoed, so I was just trying to get him out of there.
Yeah, so in that situation, then it might have been beneficial, like, because you don't want to
Mercy then.
in that situation, you might not want to sacrifice yourself, so maybe pinning him into a pillar might be good, because it puts him out of the fight and it does a whole lot of damage to him. You could possibly end up like killing him there just off of the off of the pin alone, right? And I think he might have also been discorded possibly.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, so you could have possibly like just ended up killing him if you put him into a pillar. And then the
Mhm.
other thing is that you had more team support in that instance, I'm pretty sure. So you probably would have been able to like just kill him with your team or get healed by your team or something like that.
Okay.
Peek a little bit more to the right. You're not gonna be able to fit it through that tiny little gap.
Power group at the choke.
Yeah, it's just gonna hit that, I think. Oh, maybe it does go through that. Huh. So yep, you got it right. You're just holding on this corner. Oh, 38 already, just from 2 fire strikes. That's why you go for the spawn fire strike. Right. So in this instance, you might be playing for maybe like a fast shatter, as they might not be expecting it. Oh, don't peek out wide, right? They took a lot of damage when we peeked wide. Right, so how'd we die there?
Aw.
And he was on the left side. Ryan was,
So we got hooked by a hog, right? That's how we died.
yeah.
So kind of same exact concept as we were talking about with Ana. First off, awareness that hog is there.
Hmm.
Secondly, shielding when we know that hog is there, because obviously if hog hooks us, we die. So we don't want to die. So we want to make sure we're
Right.
looking to shield for the hook. I probably say we're not gonna be able to recontest that. You're only
Yeah.
have like 2 people, so it's better to back up.
Objective lost.
We have numbers here. We have like another main belt.
Almost ready.
That little room is an instance where you could possibly go for a very short pin and get away with it, because they can't really see you. Unfortunate. Alright. Only thing I might say is make sure we're using our ultimate earlier in the fight before they're like coming in and popping 5 ults and then just winning off of that. Maybe like get value earlier. Same thing with like again, like maybe pinning in and getting, and then therefore getting value might end up also doing things. Besides that, pay attention to where just watch and look to where the TP is, because I don't think we knew where the other end of TP was. So then we just were blindly TPing, and then that plopped us in front of a bomb, which isn't like a super big your problem thing, but it's still, you could have known where it was going, and then therefore had possibly, I think you still would have died even if we did know where it was going, but
Yeah.
just the point that we didn't know where it was going is still a problem.
Yeah.
Attackers incoming in 30 seconds.
So I think once they pressed 5 ults and we didn't ult, that was pretty much where the fight was over.
Oh, hold on, far. Wait for me.
Right, so same thing as we did before for early fire strike, except for this time we're not gonna get hooked by a hog, right? We're also not gonna wide peek and like go from right side to standing in the middle.
4,
Okay.
3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming. Defend objective.
Very nice, 20% already.
So just playing basically right here, right, and then like a little bit is over here, but
Yep.
Behind you, Bastion.
Just get a fire strike off in that instance, right? In general, fire strike off a cooldown, right? You just want it out as often as possible. It's gonna get you maximum ult charge, right? When you're getting it out there very often.
Fuck, I got hooked. Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay. When Zarya bubbles you, peek up a little bit further so that you can actually get energy off of it, right? That's just how you can passively help support your team. So don't sit around the corner.
There, you're even, I got back.
Right. In that situation, we went towards the middle again, and then that meant that we just had our shield melted, and then we didn't have it for when we needed it. All on top of that, I do not think that we were paying attention to where our team was, and our team, if I'm not mistaken, was all sitting on point, right? So if our entire team is sitting on point, then now it might not be as hot of an idea to sit by yourself up at choke, right?
How did you die?
Still 4-4, so. Alright, very wacky fight, but it worked.
life in gold.
Echo flanking behind again. Same place.
They're all playing point. Should I stay point?
Yep, if you don't want to be up by yourself there.
Yeah.
Fuck. Muted the mercy still.
Adaptive circuits engaged. Bastion. Configuration activated.
Right. Alright, in that situation, they kind of just saved up and pressed Q again, and I don't think you guys had enough ultimates to press Q back.
Yeah.
How you can look to possibly get a workaround is like just go extremely aggressive, go for like really aggro plays as a team, and then you can possibly just end up winning the fight before they get a chance to use their ultimates effectively. Another thing, yeah, that's pretty much it there. There as well, we just could have maybe used shield there. little isolated from our team there. So notice how a lot of our teammates were on the left and we were on the right side, right? So stick with team, shield, maybe get a extra aggro when you see you're about to lose. Let's see, we have 40 minutes left. We're gonna take like the last 15 minutes or so to do a review and then go over the main points of the session and do a wrap up from there. So you can probably, though we still have, so that was, I said 40, that's 15. So you still have like 25 minutes. So go ahead and hop into a game.
like that, like Hanamura one. That so I mean I was pressing forward pretty aggressively as Ryan, trying to get through the choke. Should I be sitting there and trying to farm like a support ult and wait till we can just press Q?
You can if that's that's like pretty advanced and it would need, the whole team would need to be aware and on board with that. So that's, for example,
Morning, yo.
the type of thing that you could do at a very high level of like top 500 level, or I guess maybe you could do that like at GM, or if you're in a team setting. But I would probably say that's not something you're going to want to do at gold because your whole team's not going to be on board with that. And on top of that, you're not, I would say it's not, you're not gonna be able to as effectively do it. So I'd say in most situations you're not gonna want to try to go for that. Maybe if like the whole team is talking, or you're in a 6 stack and you're like pretty sure everyone's on the same page, then that'd be fine to try to do that, to farm up for a support ult. Particularly you'd only want to do that if like it's a fast charging support ult. So like for example, you could do that for a nano boost or a BAP window or a coalescence. But you wouldn't do that for a Zen ult or a Lucio ult or a Brig ult, right? That's not going to be the type of support ult you want to farm for.
So my best bet really is to just should I push and then try to go right on Hanamura
You
to where
can.
this cover?
It's dependent upon the situation. You can push. Yeah, I'd say probably push and go right to use the cover, but then like, so you might need to go run over to their tanks and engage on them.
Mine's low.
Is that their team or your team? Lever.
Front's gonna charge.
Oh,
There's
I guess they're back. Huh? When you press tab, I didn't see anybody gone. Maybe I missed it. Either that's a bug or they rejoin. Go and, stagger the Lucio. Don't let him just run around their backline there. Watch for the bubbles.
yeah,
And the shield.
that was bad awareness.
Nice. Solid.
Yeah, I didn't look for either of Zarya's bubbles. Usually I try to pay attention if she has them or not.
And then they also just regular old block to the shield as well.
After that on up. personal.
Yep. I think we also we hear somebody behind, like you know, there's a McCree up top, like behind, and I think we heard him. So that might be an opportunity to go and push him aggressively.
Nice one. Just switch to hog.
Right, so when you're looking to get a shatter off, you have a lot of different ways to do that up against another Reinhardt, right? You can wait for him to just flat up drop shield, you can wait for him to be dead, you can wait for his shield to be broken, you can do it when he's not paying attention to you, when he's across the map from his team, when people peek outside of his shield, you can do it when it's around the corner and he's not expecting it, right? You have a lot of different options with it. Oh, that's unfortunate, watch for that.
Yeah.
But you have a lot of different options. Just make sure we're not shooting straight into his shield when he has it up, right? With our shatter. Besides that, when he has shatter, make sure we're paying attention. Make sure we're intentionally looking to block it. Shield more often when you know he has shatter.
Bro, what the fuck is...
Good idea. Right. Why did we die there?
Got ice wall.
Ice
Cut
wall,
off from
okay.
my team.
So what could we have done to not die to ice wall?
Maze on me.
Right. So if ice
Not
wall's
sure.
the problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's the solution to not dying to ice wall? Is the question, right? So if you're not sure, then the solution to not dying to ice wall is to first off be aware the ice wall exists, right? That we're working up against it. I'll talk in a moment. Possibly look to shatter that when you saw that he was ulting. But yeah, so first off, acknowledging that ice wall exists, right?
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, when you know it exists, look to bait it out, right? Like for example, like sit right on, you know where ice wall's gonna be. It's gonna be on that little choke point or that doorway. So stand on top of the doorway. Maybe don't walk through the doorway. You know, it's better to just not die and be passive than it is to go in and die, right? So, you know, if you need to, just don't walk in when you know that you're gonna get walled. Right, they just beat it. That's where we back up and play passive. Right, are you gonna be able to accomplish anything when they are beaten?
No.
No, so therefore that on the scale or an aggression scaling, when they press beat or trance or something, right, let's say
Yeah.
they just use a bunch of ults, that's where we start to pull back a little bit. We go from our, you know, there we were probably at like a 60% or 70%-ish, right, maybe like 65%, something like that aggression, and we
Mm-hmm.
should scale their way far back and just like full backed up to like 20%, right, until beat ran out, right.
Okay.
Massive.
Nice.
All right, very nice. In that last fight, the very beginning of the last fight, we kind of let our brig die because she's just we had all our resources and stuff, and we just kind of sat on the backside of cart when she was up a little bit. So possibly there we could have pushed forwards and shielded for her to let her escape when we saw that she was kind of in a dangerous situation. Other than that, we're being shattered quite a bit, so just make sure we're putting an effort into paying attention to shatter, right? Intentionally watch for it. You don't have to go all out and pay attention to every single ult on the enemy team, but think about when was the last time they used shatter, right? If they just use shatter that fight, they're not going to have it for the rest of the fight, and they might not have it for the next fight. But if it's been 2 fights already, then they probably have shatter, right? 2, 3, 4 fights, they're gonna have it. On top of that, pay attention to how much is Reinhardt doing, right? Reinhardt's going to have shatter much faster. If you see him in the kill feed that he has 5 kills and never, and did a whole lot in a fight, versus if you killed him at the very beginning of a fight, right? He's gonna have a lot more percentage. Did you see him swinging a lot, right? Compare him to what your ult charge is. So if you're starting off the beginning of the game at both at 0%, gauge how much is he doing versus me. If I swung on a bunch of people and he didn't, then I'm gonna be higher. If he swung on a bunch of people and I didn't, then he's going to be higher. And then from there on, you can just go off of who used it first or second. So if he used his ult first and you used it second, he's probably going to get his second ult first before you, right? So pay attention to what he has. Look to block the shatter.
Enemy contact.
So there,
Down at that time, or should I try to
yeah.
stay up top?
So in that situation, when you drop, you're dropping on the back left corner. You're not dropping in the front, because you were right to start off on the high ground. That was a very good idea, because that's a very big, long no man's land. But you dropped in the front of a choke point, right? So typically there you start off on the high ground, and then you drop on the back left instead of dropping on the front. And then that is better positioning for you to be in.
Not jump down.
Okay.
Here, do you have most of your team with you? Just, make sure we're taking a look and gauging. If we do, then probably holding above them is a good idea here, right? If our whole team is respawning, then we would not be able to do that.
Because Ryan is not very useful on the high ground, you know that, right?
Sorry, he doesn't understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, the idea, just to clarify, in case that was maybe what you were thinking, you take the high ground, because yes, that is correct. Reinhardt cannot do very much, but your team can. So you take high ground so that your team can do a lot from high ground. You take high ground to contest the enemy team from going high ground. Like, let's say, for example, what if they had pushed high ground? Well, you want to be there
Right.
to contest them. On top
Right.
of that, you want to be there so that you can, like, instantly drop on them without, having good positioning, right? Well, not having to walk through wide open area, right? So you might not technically be able to swing on anything from up there, but it also has a lot of other benefits and advantages from being up on the high ground.
Right.
Right, so because I was thinking of that, I was not paying very much attention to the last fight, so don't have very much to talk about.
That's fine.
Fucking Sombra.
Alright, so right now we're down a person. Looking to maybe group up a little bit. You see your teammates are far forwards, might want to be there to help them out, right?
My shots find their mark.
Are you serious?
Okay. Okay, pay attention to where your team's at. There we had two people who were dead in spawn. Bastion just, Genji just swapped the Bastion, and your Sigma just died, right? And then on top of that, your whole team is not right behind you. They were, all the way on like the other side of the map. So, you can't play aggressive if you don't have your team with you. That's part of aggression scaling, right? It's as if they're dead there. So, pay attention behind you. Before you get aggressive, look around behind you. You can also, very nice spin. Somehow she's not dead. Are you familiar with how to look behind you while you're shielding? Yep, so just make sure that's another way to pay attention to your team if your team is behind you or not, right? So,
Okay.
not a big excuse to be running in 1v6, right?
Yeah.
Good job in that last fight. Alright. Watch the sleep, watch the freeze, right? Just watch for the CCs, those are blockable. And then besides that, really great chatter. When was the last time the Reinhardt used his shatter?
Sure.
Not sure. Okay.
Yeah.
So if we
Assuming
know,
he has it.
assuming he has it, right? If you're not sure, then that means he probably didn't just use it, right?
Yeah.
Wait a moment. Now I'm curious. If you were to mail on that platform, does it move? I don't think it moves. There's no way it moves. Oh, someone's behind us at the moment,
It's
so
up top.
yeah, probably look to push that and just push her off. Because I mean, there's no negative side effect to pushing her because you can just always drop back to the fight.
Okay.
But now it's too late to push her, so
Yeah.
we kind of let her live for free
Be
there.
more decisive.
Yeah.
They're going around backside.
Yeah. What was wrong with her charge?
The long pin.
Exactly. Right. So they had plenty of time to shoot at you and kill you and stun you. Right. So short pins. There's situations they can't long pin. Right. Like if there's absolutely nobody looking at you, like you're coming back from spawn, you can do it. If nobody is paying attention to you, you can do it. If it's just not dangerous, you can do it. Right. But
Okay.
if you have people staring straight at you, don't do it. Right.
Okay.
Enemies in our orbit.
30 seconds remaining.
Activating the barrier.
But I play up like closer to try and because there's only a few seconds, or
No, I mean you just wait from like on the point. Right? It's not like I don't think you had like a place where you could stuff or like keep them in this tiny little area. Like I don't think you really made too many options. So I think holding back on cars is probably the best option there.
Okay.
All right, so we have 20 minutes. I feel like I had something I wanted to talk about, but I just completely forgot what it was. Um, hmm.
I'm gonna go to the bathroom
Oh, yeah.
between this if that works, because
Yeah,
you
okay.
said the last 15 we wanted to talk about, like go over things. So
Sure, go ahead.
cool.
You back?
Yep.
Alright, so why don't we just hop into the end stuff now? Because we're not gonna have a time for, I don't think, any
Yeah.
cues, and then I guess if we have some extra time at the end, we can figure out something to do with it. So why don't I get this up and running, and then if I maybe think about the thing, then I will bring it up, but at the moment I cannot remember what thing I had been thinking about talking about.
Justice will be
Um,
done.
yeah, alright, so let's go through everything. So, ability usage, charge, right? No long distance charges, go for short ones. If you have absolutely no pressure, nobody looking at you, you can do a long distance charge any day, right? Go for it out of spawn. But if people are all staring at you, right, then you don't want to go for a long distance charge, right? Instead, go for a
Mhm.
short charge like so. Medium charges are up in the air, right? It really depends upon the situation. Sometimes you can go for medium range charges, sometimes you can't, right? So that depends upon the situation, right? How many people are looking at you? How many like stuns do they have? How much damage are they going to put at you, right? Depending upon the situation. Charge more often, counter charge. Counter charging is going to be best if it's done as a when you either have neutral or superior odds, right? So do it if both teams have the same number of players or looking at you guys, or if your team has more. Don't try to do it if possible if you are at a disadvantage because you're just gonna die anyways. So it's probably better that you try to look to like run away and get out of it in time rather than try to countercharge it. Um, Let's see, what else is there? I think that's about it for charge. Fire Strike off a cooldown. Besides that, honestly, there wasn't a ton wrong with Fire Strike. Fire Strike spawn to start off. Maybe sometimes like where we would be swinging on someone, where I might recommend using Fire Strike. Like, for example, there's like one time where like we ran a Reinhardt and then we Fire Struck and then swung, and then Reinhardt charged away, and then possibly in that situation, Fire Strike could have been used to finish him off while he was running away. On top of that, your best combo, I believe, with Fire Strike is Swing Fire Strike because it is the fastest. And like it goes together the fastest. It's kind of the smoothest animation cancel. Whereas if you were to Fire Strike and then swing, it's a lot more of a delayed timing. So Fire
Okay.
Strike, or you do swing, fire, strike, swing, right, is what it is. Swing, fire, strike, swing, right, is how you're doing that.
Okay.
Charges, you can also do it for shatters as well, right? Charge, like if they're all over there, we're not gonna be able to reach them, so we charge over to get to it in time, right?
Yeah.
Don't do it, if they're all like grouped up here, don't do it, because then you're just going to boop them all around, right? You can also do it
Right.
you can also do it at the very end of a shatter, like to finish somebody off if they're not dead yet, right? Then shield management, shield for, don't spam up your shield. Use shield when
Mhm.
it's needed. Let it recharge when it's down. Shield hopping to when you're engaging or disengaging. I don't think I actually mentioned that, but you can also use it when you're going backwards too, right? Shield hopping backwards to disengage
Yeah.
when you're not low. Look around you with your shield, right? Check around. Besides that, shield when don't just shield for random spam damage. Shield up against abilities, ultimates, teammate when you're low, when teammates are low, when you're pushing, backing, and when it's a ton of spam damage, right? But don't just shield when it's not needed, right? Then overall ability usage probably goes to like a medium priority for you to work on. Ultimate usage, I think we got off a decent number of shatters. Now, I think sometimes they ended up getting blocked, and then sometimes we would use it maybe like when the fight was won or lost. Sometimes we would end up shattering and then not really be able to capitalize on it. So when you do shatter, make sure somebody's able to do something, right? Because if you shatter and nothing comes out of it, then Shatter didn't accomplish anything, right? So make sure either you or your team's actually able to do it. So for example, if you don't have charge and you don't have fire strike and you don't have your team around you and you shatter these guys, well then what does that shatter accomplish, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't do anything, right? So make sure someone's able to do something to shatter. We already talked about charging in the shatter already. Um, Besides that, make sure you're looking to block the enemy. Brian's shattered, right? Just the shatter game. Um, Pay attention to it. Make sure you are paying attention to it, and then look to shield more often. When you're shattering, you have a lot of different options up against the enemy, Ryan. Right? Wait for him to drop it. Wait for him to fire strike. Wait till he's dead. Wait till it's broken. Trick him. One of my favorite ones is to do a like swing around shatter. Is like it looks pretty awesome too. Is where like you'll do a 180. So you'll pretend you can pretend to swing on somebody, or you could actually swing at somebody. Like let's say Tracer's behind us, we can turn around and swing on Tracer for a little bit. Reinhardt thinks, oh, the Reinhardt's being dumb and not paying attention. He comes at
Mm.
you, and then all of a sudden you do a quick flick around with the shatter, and he's dropped his shield, right? So that's an option. You can also you go around the corners. You can do it when he's not paying attention. This is another shatter you can do. Is you can use the ability of you can your camera angle
Yeah.
to peer around corners. You might have seen this in
Yeah.
plays, but they can therefore let go and come around this corner and shatter when you know that they don't have shield up, right? And then that shatter. Overall, honestly, I'd probably say it goes like a little bit below ability usage, but it's more so maybe like high end of medium to low end of medium. It's not a very big, massive difference, but I think it's just one ability usage is above ultimate usage, but they're both mediums. Um, Mechanics isn't really a category in Ryan, but I would say just swing around your camera, right? That's about it though within that. Positioning, cover usage. Good positioning is the usage of cover. Bad positioning is the absence of cover. Take high grounds. High grounds are fantastic positioning. I don't think we actually talked too much on high grounds, but high grounds are great. We talked a little bit on them. Even if they're not great for Ryan in particular, there's a lot of reasons why you still want to take them. Right?
Yeah.
Besides that, no man's land and choke point usage, right? When holding defensively, don't hold in the front or the middle of them. Hold at the end of them. And when you are pushing through them, push from cover to cover, shield hopping, right?
Okay.
Now that's about it with positioning. I think overall positioning, I'm trying to think. Probably went to medium priority as well. Honestly, those are all kind of grouped up near the middle. And then finally, we have awareness slash aggression. This one is not going to be grouped up with them around the middle. Awareness slash aggression, because those two correlate with each other. Your awareness of your environment directly corresponds to how aggressive you should be playing. So let's talk about awareness. Pay attention to your health bar, to your shield health. Request healing when you're low, right? Make sure you're paying attention to where's my team at, where's the enemy team at, right? So look before you engage, look around real quick, right? So before we turn this corner, we should do a quick scan. Do we have my team? If you do, sure, go ahead. If you don't, wait for them. If you
Okay.
get here and you're like, oh snap, do I have my team with you? Do this, right? Look behind you, right? Just make sure being aware of where they're standing, be aware of where the enemy team is. Pay attention to your audio awareness. Pay attention to team compositions and how team comps dictate your play style. Pay attention to who's winning or losing the fight, right? Like pay attention to kill feed, who's up, who's down, right? 1 to 2 is an advantage or a disadvantage. 2 to 3 is a won or lost fight. Don't stagger. When you've lost a fight, you look to get out if possible, or you let them kill you. And then don't ult in won or lost fights, right?
Okay.
Besides that, the aggression half of this, pay attention to what's happening so you can know when to be aggressive or passive. Aggression scaling, right? You start off at a neutral 50%. You go up when you have advantages and when you have opportunities. Then you go down when you have disadvantages and when you have a lack of resources, right? You don't, just to clarify again, you don't go down if you don't have an opportunity. So if you're at 50% and you don't see a Reinhardt who's 1 HP, you're not going to go down to 30%, you're just not going to go up, right? And the same way, you're not going to go up if you have resources, you're just not going to go down. So if you, for example, have your shield, you're now not going to go from 50% to 70%, you're just not going to go down to 30% if you have it, right? So those two are not, they don't go both ways, they're both one or the other. Whereas, but the one that does go both ways is the advantages versus disadvantages, right? That is a
Okay.
both way thing, right? Pay attention to what's going on, that way you can actually, be aggressive based off the situation, right? A lot of situations where we were off, we're on the wrong side of the coin, right? And then
Yeah.
overall, that one went to a medium high priority, possibly like even a little bit beyond that, but we'll put a medium high, right? One other category, why don't we add this in? Just talk on that for a little bit since we have extra time. Talk on survivability, right? Survivability really is just, whoop-de-doo, dying's bad, but it's a little bit more complex than that. Like, it's worse than you probably think, right? When you die, you spend 10 seconds of time respawning and then 10 seconds of time walking back, which is 20 seconds per death, right? So if
Yeah.
in a game you died 10 times, that is 3 minutes and 20 seconds of time where you are dead, which is a whole heck of a lot of time. That's the time where you could be getting like 3 shatters, right? Or
Yeah.
2 shatters. That's a lot of time where you could be participating and doing things and getting kills and ultimates and doing things.
Yeah.
But you also have to remember that when you're dying, it's not just a lack of value, it is negative value. You're putting your team at a disadvantage. That's your impact on losing the fight. You're now more likely to lose the fight because you're dead, right? So look to stay alive, look to do things, pay attention to why you're dying, right? When you die, there's usually 4 different reasons why somebody dies. You could have poor positioning, a lack of awareness, misuse of abilities, such as, let's say, mismanaging your shield or not shielding when you could have, or charging
Hmm.
into their team, or you can have over-aggression, such as sprinting in their team or charging into their team, right? Those are the main ones. There's also some other ones that are tinier subcategories and whatnot, but those are the 4 main ones. Think about, why am I dying? Look to look for the solution to why you are dying. So if you're in bad positioning, think, where could I be positioning alternatively, right? And then look to apply that into your gameplay. Um, Overall, survivability probably went to like a low to medium. I don't think it was as big of a problem. Definitely not as big of a problem as other people have, but it's still a thing, right?
Okay.
And then real quick, let's put that all in order, right? Number 1 comes in as awareness/aggression. Number 2 probably say comes in at positioning. 3 comes in at your ability usage. 4 is ultimate usage, and then 5 is your survivability. Or wait, I skipped something. Oh yeah, sorry, never mind. 5 is survivability. I forgot mechanics is in a Reinhardt. Usually that's a
Yeah.
category. Reinhardt, not really. Then, since we still have time, let's talk about application, right? How do you apply the things we talked about, right? Well, you apply the things we talked about. Let's just pick out a category, for example. So awareness/aggression. Well, you might be saying, well, boogie, right? Awareness seems like a very vague concept. How do I get better at awareness? Because that's just looking, right? How do I get better at looking? Well, you get better at awareness the exact same way that you get better at anything that you're looking to improve upon. And that is that while you're playing, you're going to focus on your awareness. What that means is that you are going to make sure you're not autopiloting. You're not going to just play to play, and contrary to popular belief, you're not going to play purely to win, as when you just play to win, you end up just stagnating, whereas if you play to improve, you end up actually improving. So what that looks like is while you're playing, you're going to be thinking in your head, awareness, 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 aggression, 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 right? And when you think through that, right, now because, you're paying attention to it, your awareness is, and your aggression are going to do a whole heck of a lot better, right? Because you're giving it thought and effort and putting extra effort into it and focus, right? Now, when you do that for a long enough period of time, that forms it as a habit. Now, once it forms as a habit, it's no longer something you have to constantly remind yourself about, and you can look to move on to a different thing to work on, and it now comes naturally, right? Now, I would recommend don't try to do everything we've talked about. We've talked about a ton of different things in the last 2 hours. Don't try to do everything, that's going to get overwhelming. Instead, focus on one category of things or 1 to 3 smaller things within a category, right? Do you have any questions about anything we've talked about or just anything else in general?
Um, Not really, not so much. It all makes sense. Um, I gonna keep playing, and I'll try to think about all that stuff while I'm doing it. I think typically I'm a little better at all tracking on the enemy, like Reinhardts and things like that. But but I was definitely doing exactly what you were just saying. But there was so much that I was trying to think about that
Yeah.
not good in that area as I normally am. I usually
Yeah.
play with one of my buddies, and I'll tell him like Ryan's gonna shatter. I can tell he's playing up close. He's playing aggressive. He wants to have like be close to all of us so he can do that.
Yep.
But
And it also probably doesn't help that I'm talking to you and being a distraction. So,
oh, you're fine.
of course you can make a couple extra mistakes than you usually do if you're playing. So, in any case, let me stop the recording there.